Hello, and welcome to another Loki live panel. I was thinking about calling this Timekeeper Talk. I'm just kind of trying that on. Welcome to Timekeeper Talk. I'm Dan Tabor, and I'm joined by...
So many.
What's the order?
Oh,
ladies first.
I'll do it. What's up,
Ladies
y'all?
first.
It's Yali. I'm back. I haven't been in one of these in a while. It's good to be back. I am our content curator here at Fandom Spotlite. I also do social media. So those memes you enjoy every Monday, you're welcome. And I am here to talk about Loki, the good, the bad, and we'll see. But it's nice to be back. And also happy Pride to everybody. It's Friday, we gotta get that in.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm back again. I was here last week and I'm here back again to talk with Loki. I am a writer at Fandom Spotlite. I like to talk about all pop culture, nerdy, fun, random things. I run a book blog in my spare time and I have lots of thoughts and opinions on fandom things.
That's important.
It's very important, very important. Hi, everybody. Long-time listener, first-time participant. I'm Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics. I'm a self-publishing comic creator from Columbus, Ohio, and frequent celebrity moderator. Tom Hiddleston has touched my hammer. That's just how I'm starting it off. I'm just throwing it off like that. Yeah, that's right.
It's hard to top that. So let's start this panel off with a little bit catch up. Yali, you weren't here last week, so what were your thoughts on the first episode of Loki?
I thought the first episode did what it needed to do, which is kind of cater to the people who know who he is, who watched all the movies, things like that, but also give enough to someone who's just now jumping into it for whatever reason, for enough for them to understand what's happening. So I thought the first episode was really well executed. It gave me an idea of kind of like the theme and the tone that we're going to get throughout. I also got to see some of the in real time response because I ended up being on Twitter at like 3:00 in the morning, and that was really fun to see. I love the 2-minute run of everybody just going Mephisto, and I'm like, oh my god, I missed you guys
it's
so
never
much.
Gonna stop.
I missed the Mephisto gang. So yeah, first episode really, really good. Second episode, we'll see.
Well, I'm going to do a brief recap. So the first episode was kind of all exposition-y and all kind of getting everybody caught up, like Yali said. And now that we're all caught up with the exposition, this episode starts out like the show everybody was kind of expecting with the weekly sort of time travel adventures, but they go to a Renaissance festival, which was kind of funny. And also by the end of the episode, they pull the rug out from under us again. And they're like, okay, you thought this was going to be a one show? Bam. Not the show you're looking for again. So with that said, what did everybody think of the show this week? Let's start with Rachel.
So following up, I was super excited to get into this episode. I think it started out where I was like, okay, we're doing some time travel stuff. And honestly, for me, I would kind of have liked to seen more travel stuff before. I know we only have like so many minutes an episode, but I really like to see like more of that. But there's kind of see how them testing theories of how to disrupt the timeline and what kind of things disrupt the timeline and how would it be affected, and looking into the variants and kind of giving some more background information on the TVA and what it's all about. But also the ending was just kind of like, I did not see that coming.
We'll get to that in a minute. So, Victor, what did you think of the episode?
So I enjoyed this one a lot. So I might be the odd man out here. Part of the fun of it, of course. Okay, good. So, I mean, part of the fun for me is seeing how it's actually going to unfold, because from a narrative standpoint, one of the biggest things that I came into the series questioning is how well will they address things that this particular iteration of Loki should know versus not know.
Yeah.
And it gets, really funky for like a hot second, but they overall kind of, pull it off in a really big way. So I was really excited to see how they were going to move that forward and see where this is going to go. So the number of things that have been revealed, I'm like, okay, so we're not to just, assume how this show is going to be, which makes it great for the watching experience.
Now, Yali. I'm a little nervous.
Bring this cloud. Bring the thunder. Bring it.
So I I don't want to say I dislike the episode. I do like it, but I think from my perspective as a person who unfortunately is that nerd who's read a lot of the comics and read a lot of other comics, I can see it being too similar to other things that have already existed.
Yeah.
There was a run in Green Lantern where they got to literally the hand of time, and like the goal was to close it and end all time. And there was some, time traveling back and forth. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold did something like that together too. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of currently now's version of Umbrella Academy. So my concern is just like, is this going to be new enough or exciting enough or different enough from the things that people have already gotten a chance to see for it to be special? Like, is Loki himself enough for this to be still cool? So I think that's my own fault for being so knowledgeable, is that I can kind of see what's coming. But if I remove that, I thought that this episode was a little bit too comical. I did enjoy the funny moments, like when he was like the whole salad bit, like that was hilarious.
Miss Minutes.
And Miss Minutes, him messing around with Miss Minutes, and like him just like being in like Pompeii and like causing a ruckus. I'm like, oh, that's the Loki we all love. But I thought that the introduction of the under the rug person, as we should say, is could have been done differently. I don't know how. It just wasn't my ideal introduction. Like, I thought it should have been cooler, and for some reason it came off as just like, we only have like 50 minutes of show, and we have so much budget, so we got to do something. And then the thing that happened after meeting the person behind the cloak was way cooler than meeting the person. So for me, it was kind of like wasn't sure if they knew entirely how they wanted people to the audience to react, like what was supposed to be the main point of the episode. Like, with a lot of great things, but I don't know if they all come together the way it was intended to. So
now I have a question about horns. Did anybody notice the horns were pequeño? Like the Loki's horns are usually very big, and I kind of thought that was a compensating thing now. I as soon as we got introduced to the superior variant, we saw very small horns. So
well, they also only have one.
Well, they go through the thing where there's multiples, and we saw that whole thing in the one thing. And they said that they've been pruning Lokis for a while, and they're used to it, which I thought was interesting. And this kind of also made me think about, is this how female Thor is going to come out in Love and Thunder as well? Like, this other variant is going to be like the Thor from this timeline, and that's going to branch off, and that's going to be their Thor. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like thinking that might be how they explain that. But so we discovered the variant has been hiding in apocalypses, which is why the TVA hasn't found them. And I thought that was interesting because, they kind of they're still trying to bake you into their sort of version of time travel. And I really thought that got a little bit annoying, especially when they're at the Renaissance Fair and they're literally asking Loki to repeat the plot sort of thing 3 times. So that way the audience knows how this stuff works. Mm-hmm. But time travel is always dicey. So basically they talk about how this person's been hiding in class 10 apocalypses, and they go back to a Walmart. They go to a Walmart in 2050 where they track the superior person down, because we do the thing where we go to the Renaissance Fair, which is of course comical as you'd expect. You think that they're actually in the medieval times, and they're actually at a Renaissance Fair. And then we get to this Walmart in 2050 Alabama, of all places. And we discover the superior Loki is the female Loki. So, I mean, with this logic, is everybody else kind of following this? Is everybody having a problem with this logic? I know it's one of those things where logic is a hard thing to lock in. Is that sort of working for everybody here? Yali?
I think, well, it's kind of a Walmart. It's actually a Rocks cart or a Roxmart, which is like a thing of something that is part of Roxxon. Mm-hmm. And the thing that all of these shows had, even the ones that are not MCU related, have all been Roxxon. So for me, it's like you keep bringing it up, but it keeps not meaning anything, or is it going to mean anything yet? So I think that for me messes with the logic of like the overarching end game of these shows. Is like you keep putting Roxxon and everything, and then it doesn't mean anything.
Well, so, I mean, do you think it could be just them trying to be like, okay, here's like an Easter egg or
but it's the Easter egg for every, like Cloak and Dagger, the Runaways, There was a little Roxxon teaser and WandaVision, same in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Like, it keeps becoming a little bit of a thing, but it's like, is Roxxon the Easter egg that's gonna like make the fanboys lose their panties? I don't know, because it wasn't doing it for me.
I mean, I lost mine like a little bit.
See, I didn't kind of grapple onto that. Like, to me, I'm more.
For me, that's where the logic for me of the show was like that's keeping me from understanding like the logic overall. It's just like, is this important because it keeps coming up? Does this have anything to do with the variants or how time travel works or the TVA? Like, do they mesh? Because it's not the first time that it's come up. But as far as if I eliminate that, I still find it difficult. Some of the whole TVA thing, but I think that's what they want, is for it to seem a mystery. But it's just like,
yeah, because we still haven't seen the timekeepers yet. Like,
I don't think they're there.
Does anybody trust that girl? Because I think she's sus. Like, I think she's hiding something.
No.
I mean, she's definitely hiding something. But I mean, I'm just saying, I don't think that she sucks. I think she's good at hiding what she's supposed to hide. So,
she's not being sneaky enough.
Yeah, no, not at all. I definitely. What's interesting, Yali, is that the reference to Roxxon, I think this is one of the first ones in the official MCU universe to reference it. And I do think, considering Jason Aaron's run on Mighty Thor that featured Jane Foster as Thor and Roxxon's big play in that, I think we will see Roxxon actually kick off more in Love and Thunder. And this is kind of that intro piece, right? You have that Loki connection, which is connected to Thor, which they, crazy wall, Charlie Day style. But in terms of the logic of it, so far it is very Scooby-Doo mystery. Like, you get introduced to all these different things and you're just waiting at the end, like, whose mask is getting snatched off? Like, who is losing their face to this one? And I think one of the biggest twists of things is the fact that we've now seen this variant individual in the flesh, and it's no longer the mystery. Like, we know that that's who that is.
They got that over pretty quickly, and I was really surprised I mean, that's the thing. It's like we're next show might be a completely different show. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing. We've had two different, like, it's almost like WandaVision, where every episode was a different genre. It's like, what are we going to be doing next show?
Right.
How about you, Rachel?
For me, like, when I first came into the show, I was really like, I felt like a lot was thrown at me with exposition in the background. And then it got to be where, like, okay, I get this, I'm following it. And then we get in the second episode, I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying it. And then towards the latter part where they're like revealing stuff early on, and then the logic of the TVA and the confidentiality and the people and what they believe in, and it gets what to do, confusing. So I'm not sure what the show is going on. And I think that's what they're trying to do for viewers, but it's in a way, not that I don't want to continue watching it, it just leaves me more confused, I felt, at the end of the second episode.
See, I was like, I was filling my head with all these weird theories. Like, I was firing these off of my wife last night, and I was like, wait a minute, if like there's a Lady Loki, there's other multiverses, and what if in Black Panther we pull from another multiverse where Killmonger was the Black Panther and he becomes the next Black Panther? Because I know Shuri is supposed to be, she carries the mantle in the comics, but I know everybody loved Michael B. Jordan. I thought he was great. What if like we pull Michael B. Jordan from his timeline as good Black Panther and he becomes Black Panther? Like, I'm like, they can bring the X-Men in, like all this stuff is going to come in now. Like, I'm just like, just everything. And the actress who played Lady Loki, might as well say it, was Sophia DiMartino. She had done a lot of BBC. One thing I loved about this woman, she was only 2 years younger than Tom Hiddleston. 2 years. 2 years. They didn't get some like 16-year-old like girl to play Lady Loki. They got a woman who is
a lady
to actually play her. I love that. You don't understand like how many times I see these movies. Like, I mean, take Bloodshot for instance. Vin Diesel, his love interest in that is like half his age, and it's ridiculous.
Right.
I think they picked somebody who's mature, who can carry her own. She's done a lot of BBC, and like I think she was in that the Beatles movie too. She did like a bit part in that, but I think this is her first big role. What was everybody else's thoughts on the casting? Let's start with Rachel.
I mean, I think she was a proper casting for Loki. Besides the whole big reveal and the shock, I thought she was fitting for like what I guess a female version of Loki would be like or act like or look like. And like you said, having a mature or like seasoned actor who's done different kinds of things to play that role. I feel like I appreciate that when it comes to movies or series that people have done a lot of stuff and they're using the same actors, but they're also using other actors from different types of films and throwing them in there too.
Because that kind of mimics Hiddleston's background too. Like he did a lot of TV, BBC and stuff like that. And they might have even been in something together too. I don't know, like, how that stuff goes. But I was happy that they brought somebody who was, a decent age, who could see eye to eye with him and who, we only got like a couple seconds on screen with her, but I thought she held her own. What did you think, Yali?
I think that the Marvel casting does a pretty good job of having people be the appropriate ages. For at least for our time, because a lot of them in the comic books are they're younger versions of themselves, but to bring them more to our time, make them more mature, makes the story is enriched that way. So I thought that she looked cool. I thought she looked a little bit to me like the Enchantress. So I was like, well, maybe they're the daughter of like Loki and Enchantress. Like maybe she's that version of it. Because I know Enchantress like is such a big deal for Loki personally. But I thought that she looked really cool. I'm sad we got like 2 seconds of her, but the time that she had on screen and what she was able to do, I was like, oh, that's badass. Like, I know what you're going with this lady. Like, I enjoyed what she was bringing, and I love that she reminded Loki, like, this isn't about you, which I appreciate as a woman, to let men know sometimes this ain't about you.
The superior Loki. Yeah, like
right.
We get Loki was after the timekeepers, and we find out that she had already gotten to one of the timekeepers or the Minutemen or Minute Woman or Minute Person and had gotten the location of them. And I have a feeling that's where she was heading. What about you, Victor? What did you think of Lady Loki?
So I love the reveal. However, much like Yali, the reveal of a blonde-haired woman would never trigger Loki thoughts to me. Like never, ever. Definitely Enchantress, speaking from the books. And also anytime that we've seen even Loki as a woman, still raven-haired, like not
so like
blonde.
Hela.
Yes, very much so. So I'm kind of like, while the term Lady Loki has been thrown around, I don't quite believe that's exactly who that is. I think we're going to see an amalgamation of sorts of characters between a Lady Loki and Enchantress. Obviously, if you guys are, steadfast comic book readers, there was kind of a thing. I won't spoil, but I think we're going to
explain it. I think it's fascinating. So
sure. Okay.
Way,
after Thor brought back all the Asgardians in Broxton, Oklahoma, the character, her name was Sylvie, was bestowed like kind of this weird sort of mixed essence of the Enchantress, but kind of like tempered with some stuff from Loki. Loki was kind of messing with her, I guess you could say, to make a Oklahoman this Enchantress character. And I think this is going to be some sort of mix of the two characters, if you will. Much in the same way, like, for those that don't know, Hela in Marvel Comics is Loki's daughter, not an adopted sister. So there's a lot of things that the MCU is going to play around with. And I think that's smart to keep everybody else on their toes. Because that's one of the best things, as we're readers, we might come in like, oh, I know what this is. And then they go
because
left.
Yeah, because when they first said they were going to introduce Hela, like my money was on the fact like she was going to be the reason Thanos was going to like go after the Infinity Gauntlet because he wanted to impress her, and then they killed her off at the end of Ragnarok, and I was
wait. Did they though?
Yeah, she died off screen, like everything else. But I'm still like,
everyone gets to come back once.
Yeah,
just the one time.
Well, how many times has Loki come back? This is his third.
But it doesn't count anymore because they reset it.
Yeah, I was gonna say umpteenth
it
time.
Doesn't count anymore.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
This is good stuff.
Oh, Lady Loki.
Yeah, I liked the reveal. I thought it kind of did sort of like I guess I liked it. I liked her casting. I thought she was good, and I was happy to see somebody in the MCU that, you know, was a match for Hiddleston. So, I mean, now let's talk a little bit about the themes that people are starting to see in, like, actually, no, let's actually talk about like some of everybody's favorite moments before we start digging into themes, because my favorite moment was the missed minutes and Pompeii. Pompeii was like, you could tell Tom Hiddleston was having way too much fun with those goats. Like, seriously, he's like, my horned friends, get out. And I was just like, no. So what was everybody's favorite, like, sort of moment of this episode? Let's start with Victor.
So my favorite moment was actually when he was stalling at the Renaissance Fair. And what's interesting to me about it is kind of thinking about the logic behind it, right? Like, why would he stall? Why would he risk, you know, this big impending moment? And the obvious answer, like right there in your face, is he was hoping that the timekeepers were going to show up. Like, it was going to get so bad that he could do what he needed to do right then and there. And I'm like, that's Loki. Like, he's not about, you know, stretching things out. He's trying to get done what he wants to get done as soon as possible. And I'm like, that's the greatest characterization of him right there. Let me do this thing. Let me get it done. Let me get it out of the way so I can move forward and create whatever mischief and mayhem I want to.
How about you, Yali?
My favorite part of the episode, I liked the part where he was in the Roxxon Mart and he was like, Lady Loki was like going in and out of people, and like the first dude was Randy. Then she switched to a big dude. He was like, I really miss Randy, you know, because at that point he realized, like, I'm not as strong as I used to be, and so I need to deal with people more at my speed, and this guy is definitely not it. So it was just a funny moment to see Loki recognize, like, I'm not as cool as, I'm not the guy anymore, like, I'm rusty. So I think that probably will play, I think probably in the future episodes, is him recognizing his magic isn't as good as it used to be, nor is his fighting capabilities are. But then again, like, this is the Loki that never made it to Ragnarok, you know, so he was much more powerful then. So he has to just get to that place differently, but it was just funny to see him kind of get his ass kicked and humble.
That's always funny when Loki gets his ass kicked.
He was very humbled in that moment.
How about you, Rachel?
For me, I always like comical moments in superhero shows because they just can get very like dark and very serious, and I just like in the middle of nowhere, even though they're having like a very serious moment, you can have very like witty banner or just fun side clips. So I like the time travel aspects of Pompeii and just trying to mess up that timeline and see what kind of chaos he could do, because it was just so random and people weren't even giving him the time of the day for what was about to happen. And I just love Miss Minutes. I really would love like just the tiny Miss Minutes desk clock. I just think it would be the cutest thing. I just need.
Oh, they're gonna make it. They're gonna make it. Yes. They license the daylights out of everything. So yeah, you'll get that. One thing I actually did notice in this episode that was getting interesting is the relationship between Mobius and Loki. Last episode, it was very much like he was like a counselor. And in this episode, it's sort of like we got this sort of weird, we got a lot of sort of looks into what makes Mobius tick, with what, like the whole conversation about he likes broken things, and the fact that, you know, he basically had to go to bat for Loki again because they wanted to reset him. And it's kind of like that's kind of an interesting dynamic, because Loki is trying to kiss his butt like he tries to do because he's manipulating people, but you have Mobius, like, you know, he's like, I would never stab you in the back. He's like, you've literally stabbed 50 people in the back. And I really think that relationship is kind of like growing on me more. Like, I really love the Mobius Loki dynamic, because I really feel like not only does Mobius sort of like have a thing, like he cares about Loki as a person, and, you know, he hopes he does something, but the fact that I think Loki realizes that Mobius is kind of a badass, like he's starting to like respect the TVA a little bit. So what did everybody else think of the whole, like, I guess you could almost call it a bromance at this point, because, you know, they're I mean, he's really putting his neck out there, and they have some really interesting moments this episode. So what did you think, Yali?
I saw it more as like a kind of like a parent-child relationship. I think that there's plenty instances in this particular version of Loki where he's just kind of like, he said, like a sad kid who has been looking for somebody to kind of just accept him as he is and love him as he is. And because Mobius knows exactly who Loki is, that, you know, he already has an acceptance for him, you know, like he knows that he stabbed someone 25 times and he knows that he's a liar and he knows his powers and, you know, and he still wants to work with him. He still wants to give him a shot. And so it became important to Loki to, like, you know, prove to Mobius that he was right to trust in him, and also kind of have that, you know, every kid has that moment when they want to show their parents, like, oh, I knew it, I told you so. And he had his moment in Pompeii. He was like, see, I told you, Dad, aren't you proud of me? You know what I mean? I was right. And so, or
the duplicator thing. And
yeah, like it was I find their relationship to be really cute, but because of that whole parenting dynamic, like when, I guess spoilers, when Loki walked into the portal, like that face on Mobius' face wasn't necessarily like the disappointment, like, oh, he betrayed me. It was kind of like a heartbreak out of its own. Like when, you know, when you see your child do something that you advised them not to do and they still did it anyways, it's like your heart is just like, oh, my baby, you know what I mean? So I find the relationship to be very parent-like, and that could just be because I'm also a parent and I understand how it is to have that dynamic with a child, and, you know, you raise them right, and you hope, you know, Loki did his homework and he did all the lessons, and he'll do good, and then you sometimes get disappointed. So I find the relationship very cute, but I think that we're going to have much more heartbreak down the line between the two of them.
How about you, Victor?
I think the relationship is very much so like a Lethal Weapon. Like there's something about Mobius that is definitely like, I'm too old for this shit, and here comes, you know, Loki doing roundhouse kicks and whatnot, and that's just kind of like, it's like this perfect view where, you know, Mobius has this experience and he has this knowledge, and there's almost like this way where he's almost upset with himself a little bit for needing someone else to get this done. And we see that a lot with when he's talking to Renslayer, and they're, you know, having this whole conversation about the things that Mobius isn't doing correctly, but actually needs someone who he should never trust. Like, that's the point.
That was the give me your gun and we're going to take your gun and badge moment.
Exactly. And so like this buddy copness of it all, which is really kind of interesting to see them kind of play that again so soon after Falcon and Winter Soldier, but still in a very different feel. Like, it's got a different tone to it, not necessarily as serious as Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I kind of love it. So yeah, I really enjoy that. How
about you, Rachel?
To me, it feels like kind of like a buddy cop relationship. It's like a bromance, but there's still that line where it's like the mentor and the mentee, and there are still like underlying like strained things in their relationship, because, you know, Mobius knows about Loki and what Loki can do, and Loki is trying to prove himself, but also Loki still has his own ulterior motives in the same way. So I mean, I like the play on that for like the format and where the show is going. But like Yali said, I think there's a lot more heartbreak on the way, especially since they're trying to work to get each other's trust and stuff. But I feel like they still don't trust each other 100% on level.
Yeah, for me, like the big sort of the thing that sort of made my little antenna stick up in this episode was the jet ski discussion. And where Mobius was talking to Loki about jet skis and the TVA itself. And to me, that I started to get religious sort of like themes out of that, because you have them using words like, if you don't believe something, how do you know it's real? And there's like these weird sort of like, it's almost like the TVA is a cult, or like a religious type thing, and like they're kind of bringing Loki into a cult almost. That's kind of like the metaphor, like I started to see a little bit of there, because it's like this weird conversation where you know, Loki is like trying to basically say, tell me, how does God exist? Like, you know, tell me how. He's like, well, you know, I was birthed from a frost giant, you know, Odin, and went through the whole thing. And you're just like, this is really sort of like interesting, and really sort of like, you didn't expected to get this deep in the episode. I mean, they start out by talking about jet skis and why, you know, Mobius is obsessed with these weird things from the 90s, like that drink he's always drinking, the soda,
right. Oh yeah, John.
the jet skis and stuff. And it's like he's kind of obsessed with and you know this is going to end with them on jet skis. Let's just say this. They're going to be on jet skis, and we can accept that. And that's going to be, everybody's going to cry when we see them on the jet skis together. That's going to happen. It's done. But I mean, that conversation where it's almost like if you're familiar with Christianity, witnessing, it was almost witnessing to Loki, and he was trying to convince him to accept the TVA as sort of his Lord and Savior, and it was really weird. I mean, what did everybody else get from that conversation? Because that, to me, just had my mind like reeling for like an hour.
I got more so like the Matrix vibe. You know what I mean? Like, how do you know all of this is real? You know, this, especially the thing about free will, when you're in the Matrix, so much of what's happening is not really decided by you. Someone else decides your decisions. So I kind of got like, I guess that's where my theory with the whole Roxxon thing, like maybe this is all part of Roxxon and they're all hooked up to machines and some sort of like
a simulation type thing.
Yeah. But I that's the vibe I got, was like, how do you know if this is real? How do you know if anything's real? And then it goes beyond religion at this point, because I know even us being living beings now, like how do we know we're not at the bottom of some black hole somewhere and this is some sort of weird simulation, you know what I mean? So I kind of got that vibe. It's just like, what if this isn't real? You know, what if Mobius is just a computer created, you know, situation, which wouldn't be too far off from things that happen later on in Marvel, but it wouldn't be too related to what they're trying to do now. So of course that might not be the correct theory. But as a Catholic, I did get that whole like, you know, we're just supposed to believe, you know, miracles happen, and you know, Jesus, and you know, how did he come back? And he was in the cave, and we get the Easter eggs on Easter, and it's just like you know the vibes, you know.
Didn't think we're gonna go here today, did you?
Yeah. Easter. Yeah, so when I first saw the scene, I first thought of the Matrix, and that's kind of like, well, how do you know, and how do you know, and how do you prove that you don't? And kind of the same thing. The only difference is no one offered Loki a pill of blue or red choice, and I don't think Mobius
the drinks. It's in the 90s drinks.
Oh no,
yeah,
we could or Surge.
Yes, exactly.
and the thing is, I don't think Mobius would be even ready to consider that either. Like if he was offered the option, I don't think he would be ready to take it at all. He's so adjusted to his life in the TVA, you know.
Yeah, because we see the church in the previous season. Now in the previous episode. Now I have a question for you. Let's kind of see if we're on the same page here. See, I see this going to Galactus and getting towards that whole thing. Like we're kind of rearing up for Galactus to be the big bad. Who do you think is going to be the next? I mean, I'm talking the next Thanos, like the next. Who do you think it's going to be? Because you seem like you've got a theory too. What's your theory? Because this is I'm assuming Galactus.
My original theory before it was Thanos, that I thought it was going to be Galactus, because the way some of the Infinity Stones originally belonged to certain people, like Silver Surfer was one of the ones who had an Infinity Stone at one point. She-Hulk had an Infinity Stone. I think Death at one point had an Infinity Stone. So when they were bringing Hela and stuff, I'm thinking, oh, we getting Infinity Stones, but we're leading more towards Galactus because, you know, he had interest in them too. I definitely don't think it's Mephisto, even though everybody wants it to be Mephisto. And if it is him, then I'm so happy for Twitter. I would be so happy for Twitter. I think it is Galactus, but I don't think they're going the original route. Because they've already deviated from most of the original story. So for me, it's kind of, that is my curveball with these shows. It's just like, I know how we should get there. We're not necessarily going in that path.
Well, it's like the Hela thing. It's like we didn't go there the same way. We went with he was like an eco-terrorist, which I was kind of like, that's really weird. And then like the Godzilla King of Monsters came out and they did basically the same thing, which is really weird.
So I don't know. I'm honestly a bit of a loop with what's going on right now, because every time I think I know, like, oh, my knowledge tells me it's this, and then they do some shit. I'm like,
that's good though.
They got me.
Right.
Rachel, how about you?
I don't really have an informed like opinion on that yet. I mean, for me, in this whole episode, I got the whole vibe was everybody.
Oh, she's frozen.
Loki was just kind of trying to shake things up and not necessarily cause mischief, but in a way, I feel like everybody's so blindly following everything, and the TVA just creates these things, and nobody's questioning that
it's like
this
a
is
cult
the proper timeline.
though.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh, but this is right because this is the way we've always been told. I'm like, no, something is.
And
just...
also, nobody's seen the timekeepers either. No. They just are supposed to believe that the timekeepers are there. See, they're
up.
They're not there. I don't think they're there.
No, I don't think they are. It really isn't.
Victor's face says that they are.
Oh my god!
It's not that they are. It's not that they are. The person who I think is the big bad for this series, which will then ultimately end up the big bad for this phase.
Oh, this sounds like Victor's got a theory too.
I got a little bit of a theory.
Let's go.
For this
tinfoil hats on.
It's Immortus. Yeah, it's Immortus. Who? What is amazing about this is that right now we've got this discussion of knowing that Kang the Conqueror is going to appear in Ant-Man 3. We know this. That's awesome. But Immortus, as a character who is a different time iteration of Kang, actually an older version of him, I think is in some cahoots with the timekeepers, if not in charge of them, or is one, or works for them in some way, shape, or form. If you guys ever read Avengers Forever, which is brilliant, Roger Stern, Carlos Pacheco, I think, did the artwork for it. Oh, so good. But
what if these are the evil timekeepers? That's the other thing. What if these are the time twisters?
I like this. See, one of the big like red flags for me is the fact that for the TVA, no one is not human. Have you noticed that? Like, unlike the Xandarians that have different people representing the Nova Corps, the TVA is all humanoid people. Like, we haven't seen someone from Hala or anything like that. Why is that? I think there's something about that that means that everything that's involved with the TVA is human-based, which is why I think it's Immortus. I think he is the ultimate one. He's got like a church that he's done in the Earth X series. If you follow that one, he creates a church that has very strong borderline religious viewpoints, just like Mobius seems to have. So I think the overall bad guy is Immortus.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Now, what do you think? How do you think Lady Loki kind of ties into this? Because, like, I she's after the timekeepers too. Like, is she going to get to the timekeepers, and then we're going to find out like it's actually Immortus behind the curtain? It's like I could see that happening. And what's going to happen with, like, now that we've introduced Lady Loki? Like, and are they going to bring Loki back into the sacred timeline? Is that going to happen? Because we got Vision back. Technically, we got Vision back. We got Vision back. We lost Vision. We got Vision again. And it's something to do with the ship or something.
Right.
But now, like, we're kind of going to bring Loki back. But are we going to get female Loki, regular Loki, or double Loki? And, like, how's this going to... I mean, we can actually keep both Lokis if, like, they're going to do the whole thing with the Spider-Mans like they say they're going to do. So, I mean... It's like your head hurts. See, that's what I'm saying, Yali. We don't know where we're going, and that's the best. That's the most.
What makes it confusing is like some of where I guess the bombs went are like very specific towards specific Avengers. So it's like, why is she in order to get to the timekeepers or the time twisters? Why does she have to attack each Avenger individually in order to get to them? You know, because one of them went to like Japan, one was in Russia, one was in Asgard, a couple, before Asgard was destroyed. Like different, I think at one point they were like in Germany when Captain America was there. Yeah. So it's like all these things are very specific to the Avengers. So why then? You know what I mean? Which it goes towards her point of saying this isn't about Loki specifically, but it does seem like it is about the Avengers or certain members of the Avengers. So it's like, how does that play into her plan of getting to these time guys, the monkey and the lizard one and the other one who's like kind of sort of looks like a person. So yeah, I think that's my curiosity. What do the Avengers have to do with her overall plan?
There was that sort of shot in the trailer where both Lokis were sort of talking to one another. And I have a feeling we're going to get like, she's going to hit her like sort of big speech at that point, and she's going to monologue at him a little bit because we met her, but she hasn't monologued yet. So
she needs her monologue.
I mean, Lokis like to talk. So imagine two Lokis together. They're just going to talk each other's ear off.
Don't let them lie to you and say that they don't. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
I love that bit where Mobius is walking out after he just got yelled at, and he's like, "I thought you didn't like to talk." and Loki's just like, "Yeah, please."
You know I was lying,
right?
I think we're gonna get another Loki, like another main cast Loki. Yeah, I think it's gonna be the little kid Loki, and that's gonna be the one.
I want the Matt Damon one, the Matt Damon Loki, like that.
He's already in Love and Thunder, like we know that. Like,
might as well bring him back for the show because he was perfection.
Well, maybe he comes up in this show and then he ends up in Love and Thunder. I mean, see, that's the thing. These all hit at a different time. Like they were supposed to hit in a certain event order, and the problem is like the COVID and the pandemic kind of screwed all that up. Like we were supposed to have this stuff years ago. So I mean, it's kind of like, I remember like at one point Marvel was saying the big bad was Taskmaster, and Taskmaster was going to be the big bad. And I was just listening there, like rolling my eyes, like, yeah, right. Taskmaster, big whoop. And now we know that that's kind of not the case because we didn't get Black Widow. Didn't get led down that road. But the only thing is like maybe Taskmaster is somebody else or something else or someone else. That's the only thing I can think of.
It could be a Skrull, and he's making their way to the secret invasion. Secret Wars, all that mess.
That I can't wait for either. I mean, it's but I'm kind of wondering where this is all going to fit in the movies, because we've gotten them kind of not in the order I think they were intended to.
Right.
But I'm okay with that but like I mean, Yali, have I convinced you that maybe this wasn't so bad after all?
No, it's just I think I'm disappointed myself. No. I mean, I appreciate your attempt. I think I have to like turn my brain off, like the part that knows things, like tell it to shut up so I could just, enjoy it for what it is right now instead of trying to like. You have
to wait for them to tell you their version of it, because the comic versions are, and that's the thing that
they're all over the place with that. There's so many liberties everywhere, but enough of it to be like, oh, okay, I get it. You know what I mean? But this is like.
I mean, are we worried that this is going to turn into the comic books where there's 100 different things you have to read and 100 things you have to watch, or else
I don't think they will, because otherwise we can't sell merchandise, because people are going to check out and they're not going to see the episode with the thing that you were supposed to buy. So they're probably not going to. I think right now it's probably the most complicated. I think the series is going to be, and I think it'll just be a little bit more easier to follow along for those.
They got to get that out the way.
Yeah, just like give them all the speech now and get to the fun later. So.
Rachel, do you think we're ever going to get the Adventure of the Week show like we were promised, like Doctor Who, but in Marvel? Because I really want that show. I still want that show.
I know. Maybe as like a short or something, or like a web exclusive.
I miss the Marvel one-shots. Why don't they do those anymore?
Who knows? I mean, I like that kind of stuff. I mean, the thing I enjoy about like the Marvel series, like Yali said, that they're very accessible to people that aren't nearly haven't read all this stuff. And I think that's one of the things about the Marvel universe and the production, and what makes it so great is that they make it more accessible to people that maybe are trying to get into comics or are trying to get into the Marvel universe, but don't want to get something in so heavy that it turns them off, because they're like, well, I feel like I don't know everything, so I can't enjoy this. But I need some one-shot episodes or some web exclusives or something to happen, because I need time travel with Loki as an animated short. Oh yes, I would love to see that.
There you go. I think that's what we're gonna get with What If. I think that's what that's going to ultimately be for us.
I can't wait for What If. I really can't.
Yes. Super excited.
I'm excited to see zombies. I want Marvel zombies so bad. I wish that was the movie we were getting, live action, but we're getting it animated. So either way, it's good stuff.
Right.
So now that we've kind of talked about this episode, what do we hope is going to happen next episode? Victor, what do you hope is going to happen now that Loki's gone through the portal with Lady Loki or the other variant? Where do you think they've gone off to? And what do you think is waiting for us? What is it, tomorrow? Yeah. No, wait.
No.
2 days.
Wednesday.
2 days. Wednesday. Listen, don't get me.
Do you know why they're doing that now? Apparently, because of Netflix, Disney Plus is now taking over Wednesdays, because apparently, this was their most watched thing ever, and it's because it was on a Wednesday. So now Disney is going to start moving their stuff to Wednesdays, like the Chip and Dale thing. Their movies are still going to be Fridays, but all their shows and stuff are going to be Wednesdays. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Mandalorian, I mean, I'm happy with that. And I heard Netflix might actually be doing the weekly model for Stranger Things, which to me, I think works better, because the problem with like Stranger Things season 3 was the fact that it went so fast that nobody had time to digest it. And it was done and we were over it. And I think we need time to kind of dissect this stuff and enjoy it and sort of like take it in a little bit more.
I want to live in the mall as well. I agree with that.
Yeah. So Victor, what do you think's next?
I think what we're going to see is this switcheroo, right? Like, so Loki following Lady Loki was not supposed to happen. And whatever place that she's hiding in, I think is going to be like a very fun, almost a, I don't know, Easter egg heavy sort of look back, like maybe wherever they're going to hide is going to be someplace absolutely stunning, incredible, callbacks to other MCU movies, and they're going to interact with things that they're not supposed to. And it's going to be this huge fun thing of, oh my God, did you see? Oh, that was such and such. And that's what I think we're going to get. That was a total sentence. Like that was a real, everyone understood that. Everyone.
Yeah. I got it. Rachel, what do you think's going to happen next?
Hopefully some more stuff about the TVA in the next episode. I feel like there's already a strain on Mobius' relationship with all the other agents and people that work there. So
he's in trouble.
I feel it's starting to crumble, and I'm excited about that because I want secrets to come out and mayhem and just basically be on just fall apart, and people start questioning what are they really doing, what are they really working for, and maybe everything that they believe in is just a sham, and that Loki was on to something.
Who would have thought?
Right.
I suspect that this, maybe not directly the next episode, but I think we're going to get an episode kind of like when Agatha had Wanda go through like everything to see how she ended up with, the chaos magic.
Yeah.
I think we might get a little bit of like them going through Lady Loki's time, or like what her origin story is, because we're going to have to get that eventually.
I really hope we don't see everything from her perspective in the last 2 episodes, because
might. I think the good thing is we have, knowing what Disney tends to do, like they want to give us whatever her backstory is. And we only have 6 or 8 episodes, so eventually we have to get that episode.
Left.
Yeah, we have to get the episode. So it might as well be the next one. We can get it out the way. But I would love for it to end up being like a Pee-wee's Playhouse style type of episode where he's just like bouncing around in her world. She's like, "Shut up! I'm trying to tell you, my story." And he is like, "Oh, you think you're the superior one," and all this other stuff. Like him being like kind of like a big brother and little sister dynamic, like how they like bicker with each other back and forth. I think that's the dynamic that they'll have, but I think it might just be another episode very like exposition heavy, just because it has to be done. I don't see them not telling her story at all, even if they have to dedicate like half the episode to that and then move along. But I think that they have to do it because people are going to want to know more about her or more about that, who Lady Loki is, like, because not everyone is us on this panel, and so they have to give the details, because she is cool and her story is
she's
really
obviously been very busy over the last.
She's been busy. So what has she been doing?
Yeah, she's got like this insane master plan that Loki just kind of like wandered right into, and there's a reason why. I mean, she planted the bubble gum or the candy. That line about like, you don't have candy on Asgard, we have fruits and berries. He's like, no wonder why you're so bitter. I love that line. But like she basically planted the candy so Loki and the TVA would show up at the place, so she would trigger her thing. So there was a reason why she wanted him there. So we're going to find out hopefully why she wanted him there. What's she's going to monologue, of course, because that's what bad people like to do. And we'll see what happens. I'm hoping, and I really like in my dream of dreams, I'm hoping like she takes them to this like asteroid and they're like hanging out with the Watcher and they're just kind of like chilling, and it's like CGI Stan Lee. And it's like they're kind of explaining like how everything works. So that way, because that's the other thing, we have a bunch of more films coming up that are all going to use this multiverse. That's going to all use these sort of like terms that they're kind of introducing now and kind of leveraging them into like this new sort of phase that they're working on. And, I'm going to be honest, the films of this phase have been underwhelming. Like the Ant-Man and the Wasp did nothing for me. In fact, like I was like dude, like, I'm sorry.
You hurt his heart.
I am like the biggest Thanos nerd in the world. So Infinity War was like here for me. Like I was like, all hail mighty Thanos. Like I was happy he won. I was like one of those dudes like he did what he came to do. Yes. Like I was good. And then like even though they kind of fought him and they kind of won, it was like, I wondered how they were going to top that sort of like, because the first Iron Man came out of nowhere. Like it was just like, I still remember going to see the first Iron Man and being like, what the heck is this? Like, where is this coming from? And I remember like, me and my wife actually left a party because we had been reading that the Iron Man was really good. We were like, superhero movies suck, man. Like, why? How Jon Favreau, who did Swingers, man, he's going to do an Iron Man movie. Robert Downey Jr., the guy who got busted for blow, is now Iron Man. Like, I can't see this.
Come on,
recreational blow.
Hey,
borderline typecasting. He wasn't even acting. They just followed him around for a while.
Like, but Jon Favreau believed in him, and here we are today. Like almost 11 years later, and it's been an amazing run. But I think the TV has redeemed it for me and showed me that there's still some amazing stories, and they've taken a lot more risks. I think. I mean, WandaVision was something that I don't think they could have done like 5 years ago. True. Seriously. True. I mean, granted, Black Widow is late to the game, very late to the game as far as I'm concerned. I'm excited to see what they do next, and I'm hoping like they sort of keep this thing up, because a lot of the Marvel shows, some people like they think they sputter out. I think they get better, and I think the more risks they take, the more interesting they are. Like I loved the sort of racial dynamics they kind of dipped into in Falcon and the Winter Soldier that I didn't expect. Like I expected it just to be Falcon, trying to get the shield back. I didn't expect, the Black Super Soldier sub arc and all that other stuff that kind of came to the front. I'm like, yes, they're trying to tell these really dense stories. And with WandaVision, the whole like the whole like discussion on grief and stuff, like you don't expect that. And I'm wondering to see, because I'm trying to find the theme for Loki, and that's what I'm digging for. That's what I'm thinking it might be the religion thing. Because he's a god.
Redemption. It's definitely redemption.
But didn't we redeem him already? That's the thing. And are we redeeming him again?
No, the idea of real redemption for Loki doesn't seem to exist, because everyone expects for him to do wrong. And I think the biggest thing will happen is when he has the opportunity to absolutely do wrong and just simply chooses not to do the thing that everyone is certain that he's going to do, particularly because this particular version of Loki hasn't had any series of the redemption arcs that the other ones have, because he didn't exist then. So I think this is going to be like a very strong, like, you know what? Bad is only a perspective. You can do good.
And they say that bad is never bad and good is never good, or something like that. They have a line like that in the when he's talking to Mobius at the table, when they're doing all that back and forth. And it's like some really sort of deep stuff that they're going back and they're talking about. And it's like stuff I didn't expect to hear in a Marvel show, really. And I just like, I'm excited to see where this goes. So any final thoughts, everybody? Who wants to pimp their stuff first? Victor?
Ladies?
Pimping.
I'll definitely do
it.
Where should people check you out? Where do they want to read your stuff at? Where do they want to, are you on the Twitters? Are you on the YouTubes?
I'm on all of it. You guys can find me at Vantage In-House on all forms of social media. Visit vantageinhouse.com to check out my self-published comics. You can find me every week doing a comic book review show called Black, White, and Red All Over on YouTube. If you go to comictown.tv. And if you are an aspiring comic creator yourself, please check out You Create Comics. That's the letter U, CRE, the number 8, comics.com. That is a program and product line that I started to kind of bridge comic books in the classroom and give kids an opportunity to make comics of their very own.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you.
A parent, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Like, that's
just like, wow.
Yes.
So great.
I do the things, all the things.
How about you, Rachel? Where can everybody find you if they want to hear more of your musings?
Well, I'm always chatting about random stuff on Fandom Spotlite's website. If you guys like reading books and all that fun stuff, I have a book blog called Life of a Female Bibliophile. I also just released a book not too long ago, so my first middle grade novel, but you guys can check me out on Twitter at Bibliophile Life, LYFE, and I chat about books, anime, fandom things, just all over the place, but yeah.
It's a great book, by the way. Definitely pick it up. My son loved it too. I can be found here on Fandom Spotlight, mostly arguing about the Green Lantern with people. For the most part.
Which Green Lantern is yours, though? Who are you? What's your Green Lantern choice?
I have a tattoo of Katma Tui, who was John Stewart's wife, who he married. But my favorite is Soren Ignatu, who is the daughter of Sinestro.
Sinestro, yes.
Yeah, so she's my favorite. The Earth ones, they're not as interesting. I also write for the big anime. I can't tell you what big anime that is, but you guessed there's only like 3 of them. So one of those is the correct one.
After the bubble popped.
Right. Where I talk about how you can use anime and parenting, use anime and help you with parenting and how that medium works. I can be found beautifully _Yali on Instagram, where I mostly post things about donuts and dogs. And on Twitter, I'm beautifully nerd, where again I argue mostly about Green Lantern with people, and also talk about how I don't like any Martin Scorsese films and fight with those people too. So I just fight on the internet in my free time. Yeah, but most of you guys can find me here on Fandom Spotlight and, doing this cool stuff with you guys and posting memes. And so, yeah, I'm deep in the Fandom Spotlight right now. So, yeah, it's great to be back. I miss you guys.
I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back. This has been a fun panel. I'm glad you came on. This has been a lot of fun. So I am Dan Tabor. I am on Falker.com and Synapse.co, where I review films. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes, where I, write about movies and all that good stuff. And, I watch a lot of weird stuff. So I'm on Twitter at Dan the Fan. I watch a lot of weird movies. I'm just going to put that out there. So I think the Marvel stuff is the more sort of like safe and vanilla stuff that I watch. So I'm kind of out there. But yeah, I write about outsider art and film, and I like things that take risks, as I will say. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Fortunately, the fans can't hear about those things. The off-air conversations about the risky stuff have been hilarious.
So would you suggest making your 10-year-old watch all 20-some episodes of Evangelion in one sitting?
My son has seen some of it, but not all 20.
Would that hurt them?
Only when it's over.
I guess. Yeah, like when it's over. But
when it's over.
It'll hurt my pocket because then he wants me to buy the stuff. So I have to weigh the pros and cons there.
Ava messed me up when I was younger, so it's like
my son's seen a lot of those animes he's not supposed to see yet, but with me watching, like, that's a titty. Don't look at that. Don't look at that
titty. I'm not seeing anything. What? No, my face is covered.
It's really Naruto. Let me.
Change that. Sorry, Ian.
Okay, so let's I guess wrap this up. It was great chatting. I thank you everybody for coming on and chatting with me about Loki, and hopefully I'll get to see you guys all back next week, and we'll actually find out like if we were all right, and we're probably all wrong, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I mean that means that this show is worth watching, because if we all predicted that it was going to happen, then it wouldn't be that interesting. And also make sure you check out VCR Redux on Wednesday. So before, or I guess after you watch Loki, you can watch VCR Redux. Watch Loki first because you don't want to get on the interwebs and get spoiled. And
just watch it at 3:00 with the rest of us crazy people.
I can't do that.
It's a fun time.
What do you mean can't? What is this can't?
Exactly.
Come on, man.
I just can't. Like, I just basically, when something like that drops, literally what I do is I have my phone shut off and I go to work and I work and then I come back and then I just stay away from the internet totally.
No, man, you got to watch that first thing. It's like having a cleansing poo in the morning. You just watch it and you feel so good. Rest of the day.
So much
before I get kicked off here, let me tell you why I don't read anything. I was reading the internet probably about 2 years before Endgame came out. And I read the entire plot to Endgame. And I said, that is the stupidest thing I ever read.
And then it happened.
That is an idiot move. There is no way they're going to be jumping through time. That's dumb. And then when I sat there at the critic stream from Endgame, I was like, they did it. I'm like, why?
It was Agatha all along. It's not your fault.
Exactly.
So on that note, I'm going to say have fun and follow your fandoms and don't read the internet spoilers. Stay away from those.
It's fun.